A new study shows that 2025 is on pace to be the left's most violent year in more than 3 decades. Blaze News The Mandate starts right now. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Jill Savage, joined by Editor-in-Chief Matthew Peterson.
What a weekend. I mean, it's Monday, and we're already discussing major events from this weekend.
Huge things going on, and we are welcoming back DC politics editor Chris Bedford, who is in one of the cities that I used to live in. We're about to talk about another one, but Nashville, Tennessee, one of the great spots in the entire country.
Oh, it's a fantastic city. I absolutely love it. And there was a couple people there who had never actually experienced Nashville. So we got to show them the town in the evening and in the morning, because as you know, Nashville does start early.
It does. Nashville, one of the better places that I've lived. Portland, Oregon, though, is the place that I moved immediately after graduating college. And let me tell you, slightly different than Nashville, Tennessee. In Portland, it's not just a nightmare for Democrats. It's actually a full-blown political liability. And the federal ICE facility has been under siege for over 115 consecutive nights, and President Trump has had enough.
When you go out to Portland and you see what's happening in Portland, this is like nobody's ever seen anything like it every night, and this has gone on for years. They just burned the place down. These are professional agitators. That's right. These are bad people, and they're paid a lot of money by rich people, some of whom we know. But take a look at Portland sometime. These are wild, these are crazy people. And they're trying to burn down buildings, including federal buildings. We cannot let our cities, and that's a small example, but it's the most violent example. It's every night, and they've done it for years. You think maybe at some point they made their point, and what are they doing? But we're going to get out there, and we're going to do a pretty big number of those people in Portland that are doing that. They're professional agitators and anarchists.
Antifa, Soros. What names are we talking about?
Well, Soros is a name certainly that I keep hearing. I don't know, but Soros is a name that I hear. I hear a lot of different names.
So professional agitators, things are happening in liberal-run cities. So why are Democrats actually trying just to resist Donald Trump? And we see their cities are burning, Matt. What is going on right now? Why can't we just have a little help from our friends?
Well, first off, it's important to point out that it's not just the last 115 days, right? If you go back years, Portland was the site of a lot of Antifa activity during 2020 and the riots. They have a large group of people there who've terrorized the city, and they do this all the time. It's business as usual. The left has normalized it and pretended it's not a problem. And of course, they don't want anyone coming in. And, we'll see on this show some of the ridiculous things they've been saying. There's just pure denial about it being a problem, just like there was a few years back. And I think the rest of the country, including the president, has had enough.
Yeah, so Donald Trump, he's going to be sending in the troops. Kristi Noem had requested this, and so Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that I am directing the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege by attacks from Antifa and other domestic terrorists. As Matt was saying, Chris, it's not just these last 115 days. When I moved out there a very long time ago, it was 2008 when I first moved out to Portland, Oregon. I had heard of Antifa, but I had never seen Antifa before. I saw them. If you drove downtown Portland, like they were stopping cars back in 2008 on the streets. And I'm like, wait a minute. What is going on here? What is happening in the streets in the United States? And so this has been a problem for a very long time. And it takes Donald Trump coming into office again to actually start addressing these problems.
Yeah, this problem goes back 20 years. It goes back 30 years. It goes back to the 90s. I mean, at least that's the first references I've heard to the weird Antifa culture of Portland. Go back to the early 90s. I mean, they would shut down traffic, like you said, with their parades, with their random stops. They were a little armed militia just living out their absolute and total fantasies. And if you hear any of the stuff from people who have come from inside of Antifa, especially those who've implanted them within there with an attempt to learn some of the structure, it is a really gross, strange, sad existence that they have. Very hierarchical, all about guilt. It's like it would be funny if it wasn't for the fact that it was so violent. And Portland's also a great place to target. The colleges around there support it. There's actual organization because it's been around for decades. I'm not talking like this is just a little pop-up group here and there, because it's been around organizationally for decades. I think that investigators will be able to uncover a lot. And the calls went out over the weekend amongst Antifa folks. You started to see some of the Portland Twitter accounts of leaders just cleansing all of their activity or deleting themselves. You saw messages going out on the board saying, delete all of your access, delete all of your emails, get rid of these records. Of course, we'll see where the limits of calling them a domestic terror organization actually go legally. But if they are understood in any of the anti-terrorism methods that the United States has employed in the past, not talking about civil liberties here, just talking about powers, then the federal government's going to be able to find your deleted emails. They're going to be able to get in touch and find out who you're in contact with. It's going to be a lot more difficult than just having a burner phone. But I actually think that they'll be able to unravel more than that. And I'm not just talking about clearing the streets, I'm talking about investigations, because part of the fact that Antifa has operated for decades with immunity and impunity in Portland, I mean, it leads to a kind of sloppiness. When no one's coming after you, you don't have to watch your back so much. Well, now people are going after you and they actually have the ability to retrace your steps. Let's see who that implicates. That could be pretty exciting.
Yeah, this is something where you really have to stop and say, okay, we're talking about this stuff. Maybe the audience knows about it. People on the right have been seeing these videos for a long time. So what do the people in Portland say? What do the authorities there say? Well, they're going to file a lawsuit to stop Trump, right? They're gonna file a lawsuit to stop Donald Trump from coming in there, and there's no recognition whatsoever on the part of the authorities that there is even a problem. Roll what the Oregon governor is saying.
Portland and the state of Oregon believe in the rule of law, and we can manage our own local public safety needs. There is no insurrection, there is no threat to national security, and there is no need for military troops in our major city.
So what we all need to acknowledge here is that there's just complete denial, right? So show what the senator is showing everyone else. This guy goes out and shows them this, Jill.
Yeah, Ron Wyden. This is an ICE facility during the daytime, and Democrats are gaslighting and selling the false narrative. He's going through and showing this apartment complex that is right across the street, and he's referencing all the Portland residents. They want Trump there. That's what they're actually saying. Or the residents are like, we've had enough of this crap. We don't want our streets to be unsafe anymore. And I just look at this, and like my political career actually began. I was voicing over commercials when I worked there back in 2008, trying to go get Ron Wyden voted out of the state of Oregon. It's a much harder task there in a deep, deep blue state. But nothing has changed from the time that I lived there to what is going on now. It's only gotten worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, and if you just put that video up again, because here he's showing a scene that you need to look at closely, because we're going to show you a few more videos from this exact area, right? And so this is the narrative, right? This is what they say. It's literally this. There's empty streets. It's peaceful. I don't know what Jill's talking about. It's never been like that, right? And then if you look at what this was like during the day, all of a sudden you see the protests start.
Power to the people! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Fight back! Trump says get back, we say fight back! Trump says get back, we say fight back!
What? I ain't done nothing! You want a lawsuit? You want me to What are you doing?
I mean, I got to credit our producer for this. I mean, there's no better juxtaposition between, what they're selling you. Here's this nice street. There's no one on it. And that same day or day or two later, all of a sudden you have what we all know goes on every night, Jill.
Yeah, and Chris, when we look at this, this is a huge problem. And the Democrats are just there's nothing to see here. Please move on. And, we're not going to do that here on the show.
No, they want to ignore absolute lawlessness. They've for years they've pretended that this was not a thing, that it's completely invented, that this is some kind of conspiracy by the American right. And then what they're trying to say is, oh, but it's old news, or they're trying to do anything they can. They're trying to make everything they can about Donald Trump too, which sometimes it's got to be about your own cities. And when all of these blue cities have all of this lawlessness, all of this crime, now this political terrorism, all of this drug addiction and overdoses, yeah, you have to take some responsibility at some point. It can't all be Donald Trump. It can't all be right-wing instigators. It can't all be mean people on Twitter. You got to just take a look out there and say, enough is enough. And they refuse to. I mean, their voters in Portland aren't going to punish them for this, which is sad, truly deeply sad. But the American people don't have to believe it. And we can see it with the footage. We don't need to just take anyone's word for it. We can see it nightly and just show it. It's two alternate realities right now that so many of us are living in. And my fear is that this sort of just bald-faced lying about what's going on will actually really have an impact on a lot of normal Democrats whose CNN and MSNBC aren't going to show it. People who take the New York Times quiz every day or every week and think, look how smart I am and how informed I am. They're going to have no idea. And they're going to confidently sneer at people who say, oh, well, there's seriously a problem here and federal agents are being attacked and stopped from doing their jobs and law enforcement is being stopped. We used to have laws against those sorts of things. They were called anti-lynching laws. You're not allowed to take suspects out of police custody. You're not allowed to interfere with active and normal police work just because you're a mob who thinks that you have justice on your side. They'll sneer at these sorts of things because their politicians are lying to them and their media is lying to them. And that's a danger for solving any of this.
Well, you were talking about that their voters they're not going to vote them out there in Oregon. Well, they only do vote by mail out there, Chris, in the state of Oregon. So even if they wanted to vote them out, you know how that goes. I want to thank you for watching and listening to this show. And Blaze TV exists because people like you refuse to settle for all of the watered down coverage and endless spin that's out there everywhere else. And this has never been about one voice or one company. It's about a movement of people who refuse to sit on the sidelines. And we need to carry this mission forward now more than ever. So when you subscribe, you're not just supporting a show, you're actually making sure that the truth has a platform today and for the next generation. So join blazetv.com/BNT to get $20 off right now. That's as low as $8 a month for an annual plan. And you can be a part of shaping the future. It's blazetv.com/BNT. There is a study that came out from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and the left-wing violence is all the topic right now. It's funny, we were talking about the headline from The Atlantic the other week, Matt, and, so there was some right-wing violence, but, the left-wing violence was actually creeping up, and The Atlantic had to go through and admit that that was the case. And now we have this study that's coming out that's saying the number of terrorist incidents involving left-wing extremists so far this year puts 2025 on pace to be the left's most violent year in more than 3 decades. So, we're coming up to October, Matt. We're looking at this. We had Julio Rosas back on the show several times throughout the campaign and heading into this year. And he's like, everything has been so quiet. And Julio was waiting for everything to amp up because this is when he gets all of his stories out there. And so he's been waiting for this. I don't think the rest of the American people have been, but Julio's definitely getting a lot going on right now.
Yeah, well, Julio's a special case, but he's someone who you're going to send out into this sort of thing, and that's his job to go out and report it. And, I think a lot of us feel the same way, right? As soon as Trump starts to actually do things, you see the left throw a temper tantrum and includes violence, and they don't seem to be apologetic for it at all. I just want to highlight real quick. You mentioned the people on the ground, right, who were sitting there from that exact apartment building in that complex we were in. I do want to show, I mean, here's a person who actually lives in that area. So he doesn't need a study to show him, right? And Senator Ron Wyden apparently doesn't care about him as a constituent because he took a video of his apartment without showing him. But show them what someone who lives right in that block says.
I am so happy that Trump is sending the National Guard in here. I live in this building. We both live in this building. We've been asking for help for months, and we're finally going to get it.
Now, I think it's really important that we look again at what the response from the left has been in terms of name calling Jill, to the other side. Not only do they cover everything up and show you the empty lot, ignore citizens' concerns, and don't tell you about what's happening at night, they also call routinely, right, ICE agents and everyone working for the government, Nazis, the Gestapo, and all of that. Do we have that montage to show everyone?
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
You shouldn't have to walk around with papers the way that they did in the early days of Nazi Germany to prove that you belong and that you're not one of them. And that is essentially the kind of country that we're becoming.
Hi, Robin Kelly here. I just came off the House floor and saw a video about what ICE is doing to human beings in the Chicagoland area. It is horrific. It is ridiculous. They're treating people like animals. This Gestapo tactic just not going to work.
It does look like a Gestapo operation. It does look like the Gestapo.
I don't know about you guys, but we've been trying to warn of this for years now. And, it's gotten to the point where, the federal government is going to take action, but it can't take action soon enough.
Yeah, Chris, what do you think about the foreign terror torture dungeons that they're talking about here? I mean, obviously, this is what the ICE people are going out there and doing is just the Gestapo, the Nazis, the name calling continues from the side that we are constantly hearing from right now in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. The rhetoric itself needs to be toned down if you're on the right. If you're on the left, though, we can still go through and talk about the Gestapo and the Nazis and everybody in the ICE facilities, Chris.
Yeah, and the thing about using the rhetoric like wrong side of history or Gestapo or Nazi or SS is that throughout history, Americans, people all over Europe essentially have been taught that those who are willing to take up arms and fight and die against their government, either whether they're in Germany or in France or in any of the occupied areas, those are the heroes that society remembers, and they can do no wrong because the other guys are the faceless villains of history. And that's what American politicians are saying when they refer to American law enforcement as that these people are fair targets, that they are easy targets, that it is heroic to attack them, that you're a hero if you shoot at them. So any single person, any politician who says that these agents are Gestapo is not allowed to say, tone down the rhetoric. We don't want people getting shot after it happens, because what else are you calling for? Or are they calling for unelect the Gestapo? That's not something that was allowed, the secret police of a dictatorship. You don't get to unelect the Nazis. The only way to get rid of them is to destroy them, to defeat them, to kill them, brand their sympathizers, and make sure that they never get another job if they're not hanged. So that's really what they're talking about here. And anything else about it, I mean, I know that they're stupid. I know they don't really get a lot of this history. They're extremely ignorant on a lot of history. This is really the only thing they can think of when someone has to have identification or prove that they're legally in a country and not allowed to be here illegally. The only regime they can think of in history is Nazis, as opposed to basically every functioning government of the last couple centuries. They don't get it, but the violence is directly on them. And you'll hear it in the same breath, like Hillary Clinton and her return tour that no one asked for, saying, we need to tone down the rhetoric because the Republicans are just awful, awful people. All right, methinks you're not toning it down at all.
They're definitely not turning it down. And this isn't something that's just going on right now in Portland, Oregon. This is actually happening in movie theaters across the country this weekend, featuring one and only Leonardo DiCaprio. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the leftist Hollywood actors and everybody are trying to go out there and say, oh, this is what America at large needs to see. It's called One Battle After Another.
Don't stop. I want you to create a show. This is an announcement of revolution. The message is clear.
I'll be seeing you very soon.
Not if I see you first.
Viva la revolution!
Oh, just Viva la Revolution. Just going through and actually attacking ICE facilities. If there is a worse timed movie to come out, but again, this is what you and Matthew Marsden were talking about on the show just a few weeks ago, Matt. This is what the left wants. They are going to push their narrative through these Hollywood films, and they're gonna put Leonardo DiCaprio out there so they make sure that everybody goes to see it.
I mean, I don't care if you go see it or not. You may as well go see it just to understand how much these people hate you, because this movie, it has artistic merit. I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson is an incredible director. Obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio is a great actor. It's top tier talent. But they decided to put out a movie that, in whatever fantastic way, whatever artistic, loop-de-loos you can do, is glamorizing leftist violence on this weekend, including what amounts to an ICE facility being targeted and people being blown up. You really can't make this stuff up. And what you have to realize is they're willing to lose money on that. I mean, they're going to spend $170 million on a movie like this. They're going to put it out there, and there's not even a warning. Like, there's no one from the movie going, on this weekend, it might seem a little insensitive to put this out when ICE people are being targeted. There's no apologies. There's nothing. This is what they want. This is what they crave. Now, the only good news is sort of a fantasy, because most of the people making these movies would never dare to be out in the middle of violence at all. In fact, they cleared a bunch of homeless people out of encampments and got in trouble for it in order to make the movie. But the point is that the culture machine is right on board with everything you hear from everybody else. So here's how it goes, just real quick. I mean, you got, on one hand, the senator comes out and says, there's nothing wrong here. Everything's fine. Don't believe your own eyes, the video you see. Oh, and by the way, you guys are all Nazis. And you say, don't you think you should tone that down because, the violence has happened? And by the way, here's a movie that says it would be great if Leonardo DiCaprio, a really cool guy, was out there working in a revolutionary movement to destroy society. Thanks. You're welcome.
Bedford, this is what they're trying to set up. We know that this is what they've been trying to do for decades, and we get to just see, their fruits, if you will, right now.
Yeah, they believe themselves the good guys in the film. They believe this all some kind of film, all some kind of arc towards history. They're in a long line that goes directly connected to Selma Bridge, that is directly connected to the storming of Normandy, that is directly connected to the French Revolution. That's the way they think. That's the way they connect themselves. It's the way they justify really obscene and awful and just often godless behavior. And you see it all the time. That's the way they justify calling police on children on the playground during COVID, or getting churches shut down, all in the name of just how they're the good people. And when you're capable of doing that, when you've got Hollywood behind you, got a lot of music behind you, you got your friends who agree with you, you can become pretty dangerous. And that's the problem that you see was it The Nation, was the New Republic trying to start to tackle. You start to see some movement of the Democrats saying, whoa, this has gotten out of hand. We actually didn't want to start a civil war. We didn't want political violence, especially, by the way, since political violence always eventually goes back the other way and an equal fight. It's not just a one-way thing. Some people in the room are starting to realize this is a problem, but look at this movie, look at the rhetoric of the politicians, look at how long it's been allowed to fester by the politicians. This whole segment comes in together because they are all responsible for where we are. It's not just Timothy McVeigh out in the woods getting books on mail order about Nazi purges. This is people who are responding to the political moment, from our political leaders, from the adults, supposedly, in the media, in Hollywood, in Washington, in the mayor's office, in the governor's office. They're all part of this, and it's a problem they need to fix right now, or it's going to get a lot worse. And my prediction right now is it's not going to get fixed. And that's going to be a problem for this country.
Yeah, it is going to get a lot worse. Let's go ahead. We mentioned Julio Rosas earlier. Let's take a look at him in Chicago over the weekend at the ICE facility there.
Arrest ICE! Arrest ICE! Arrest ICE!
right? And this is coming off of a shooting at an ICE facility here in Dallas. And they don't care. They're going through, Matt, and what we say. Yep. They're trying to tell us to tone down the rhetoric. And they're outright saying to shoot them there in Chicago that Julio caught on film.
Yeah, I would recommend going to see the article if you can show them the full screen of that. Shoot the effers is what the guy said. But if you read this article at Blaze, what Julio actually did is interview one of the people yelling. So this gentleman here was yelling, "Shoot ICE." And, when he's poked about it, he sort of backtracks at some point and, aren't words violence? Oh, yeah. I mean, he almost admits like, oh, I don't actually mean shooting people. That's the sort of madness that this has all led to. And of course, Julio went on to report today about how, at least in Chicago, and this brings us back full circle, the protesters were squashed, as the headline says. They were really put down and prevented from doing further mischief, which is a good sign.
Bedford, final words?
That is actually one of the few good signs that we've seen come out of all this darkness is that there's an administration right now that isn't like a normal Republican administration. They're actually gung-ho about this. These agents have been picked on and beat on and put and attacked and spit on for years and years. They're absolutely sick of it. They're completely sick of it. And now this administration is actually going to back them up and not apologize for them and say, go out, arrest people who break the laws. And another good thing is the federal government has all of the law on its side when it comes down to enforcing the free movement of federal agents, the making of arrests, the free speech of American citizens. It's actually not up to states to say which parts of the Bill of Rights and which parts of federal law enforcement movement they're going to allow in their states. That's settled. That's settled debate. That's long over. So the law's on their side. They've got the ability to do it, and they've got an admin that's going to back them up. I'm pretty hopeful that next couple of years, a lot of this garbage is going to end.
We need some law and order. You can just do things, and we are going through and seeing that the Trump administration is actually taking this seriously. And I, for one, am very thankful for that, because if that was not happening at this moment in time, we all think it's going to get worse right now, Chris. If that wasn't happening right now, the opportunities there for the leftists and the violence would be endless. Thanks so much, Bedford. We'll see you again tomorrow.
See you then.
When we come back, we will have Terry Schilling on with us talking about the trans violence that continues after the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. Next. Charlie Kirk's assassination has left a hole in our movement, but it's also exposed just how deep the cultural rot has gotten. Terry Schilling is the president of the American Principles Project, and he says that the violence that we're seeing isn't random. It's tied to ideology, policy, and what our kids are being taught. So Terry, thanks so much for joining us here again tonight. So before we dive into all of this, Charlie Kirk had called you a brother. So give us a story that some people might not know about him that really captures who he was.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Jill. I first met Charlie, got to really know him through the Lincoln Fellowship at Claremont. And I'll never forget, I was actually kind of shocked because at the time, Charlie was more of a libertarian. And I remember seeing Doc Peterson at CPAC, Texas. And I went to him like, hey, Doc, like, Charlie Kirk, really? And Doc does the whole like furrowed eyebrow. He goes, actually, Charlie's gotten kind of base. And so I went in with an open mind about Charlie, and I was blown away, right? In the introduction section of Claremont, when I said that we were building the NRA for families, Charlie's eyes like lit up. And he like beelined it to me after that first session and said, I want to do everything I can to help you. I want to get you at AmFest. He gave me a free booth. He had me on the main stage there. And, by the end of the fellowship, I went up to him and told him that I would quit my job to go work on his presidential campaign. And he was an all around American hero, super cool guy, and incredibly generous and incredibly loving. And, I learned from him, and he's like 8 years younger than me. That says a lot about someone.
I mean, I can't. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even talk about. But yes, the thing that people don't realize is his evolution, intellectually, because he was always learning, and then helping people like you out. So that's incredible to just think back about that week we all had, where we all learned who Charlie really was.
Yeah, it was incredible. I told people that, Charlie didn't drink or gamble, Doc, and I lost all my money like the first day. So I got to have a lot of good conversations with him.
We were in Vegas only because, Jill, only because COVID had shut down, it was still shut down all the hotels. So we had to go to Vegas for this one, and it was a good time.
Yeah, now
it was great.
Now we have to just dive in, though, to the terrible problems that are going on across the country. And Terry, when we look at it, it's not just a one-off incident, right? We're seeing that the transgender violence has come up time and time and time again now, unfortunately, for this country. So what kind of stands out to you when you look at this overall, what we have to call now a pattern?
Well, first and foremost, that this is a destructive ideology, right? At the heart of it, these people are causing harm to themselves, and it's being aided and abetted by our medical institutions, like the elites, like the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics. They have all endorsed gender transitions, which are also known as mutilation and sterilization services. This is unthinkable in a free country like America. But what's happening is our institutions, our legal system, our laws in this country, our regulations, they have all supported this gender ideology effort. And these are people that really need help. They do struggle with their self-worth. They struggle, there's a new NIH study that came out that showed that children who are diagnosed with gender dysphoria are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with other afflictions like depression, anxiety, suicidality. These things all need to be cured, but it's not going to happen until we get the federal government out of the way before we start cleaning up these institutions.
So, we've had several high-profile examples now, right, of these shootings, and it's obviously we're not saying that people who consider themselves trans are, are all killers or something like that, but it is a pattern. We see the Tennessee attack on a school. We see what happened in Minnesota, which was awful, and then of course we see the relationship, at least between Charlie's alleged killer and the trans community. When you look at all that, I mean, we thought here at Blaze we should look at something not related to high profile stuff, something people don't even know about, which is this bizarre, group of people in the Bay Area who call themselves the Zizians. I don't know if you had a chance to look at our article, but it really suggests that there is a mental illness here, or something that until recently was called a mental illness that can lead to very bad results. And even if people don't end up doing what these people did, it seems to be destructive and harmful, as you say.
No, Doc Peterson, that's exactly right. And I think there's also elements of nihilism that end up becoming fruits of this. But there's obviously mental afflictions. These Zizians are absolutely crazy. They practice brainwashing techniques where they encourage their followers to stay up all night and deprive themselves of sleep, deprive themselves of food, right, and nutrition. These are literal brainwashing techniques, and they tell these people that, no, you're jailbreaking your mind. You're freeing yourself. And the ideology is so similar. And by the way, these Zizians don't believe in gender. They think that everyone's trans in some way. There's infinite genders. But there's so many similarities between this new religion or cult, however you want to describe it, and trans ideology. I think they're all part and parcel. And I think that, unfortunately, until we start helping people get to the root of their problems, the root of their suicidality, the root of their anxiety, their depression, and yes, their gender confusion, and get people to accept their bodies, especially as children, I think you're going to have even more cults rising up like the Zizians. I think you'll actually get even worse cults rising up that cause even more chaos and dysfunction in our society.
I can safely say that before today, I had no clue who or what a Zizian was. But that's also a problem, right? Like, we go through and we have seen the transgender ideology just go one way in the media, right? Call Me Caitlyn is probably the first real time that it was put on a map, and that Bruce Jenner came out and said he was going to be Caitlyn then. And from that moment on, Terry, everybody else was just like, okay, this is great. This is what we're going to do. We are finally now at a point where people, even in the media, are starting to question, like, wait, maybe this isn't such a good idea. So how much further do we need to go? Because you and your group have made a lot of progress in this area.
Well, Jill, I think that we are, for lack of a better term, or actually a great use of this term, we're at a turning point. I think that with Charlie's assassination, with the Nashville Christian school shooting, with the Minneapolis Catholic school shooting, I think that Americans are starting to realize that this is not just a small group of children that suffer from gender dysphoria or have mentally ill mothers. This issue is now impacting all of our children. It's impacting you and I, right? If you disagree with transgenderism or are part of an institution like the Catholic Church, like Christianity, your children are at risk. And so I think that this opens the door. And I just want to say, Americans are very good. They're very polite, right? They will turn a blind eye to things that really bother them. We actually have a high level of tolerance. I think we tolerate way too much in this society, but it's time to reject politeness. And it's time to start telling people the truth. It's time to embrace love over politeness. I think politeness is a cheap version of love. We need to tell people the truth and loving them enough to tell them the truth. And I think once we start doing that, I think we'll start to get to the root of this and we'll start to save more children.
Yeah, speaking of telling the truth, I mean, when you look at everything going on, all the school shootings and all this kind of stuff, what's the one thing that shocks you the most?
Well, there's 6, 7 different examples of statistics I could give you. I think that the stat I saw this past week from Elon Musk that was retweeted was that men who identify as women are 630 times more likely than the general population to commit acts of sexual violence. Right, that's an astounding number, right? And that's not to say that every transgender person or crossdresser is a sexual deviant, but what these laws are doing by eliminating discrimination on the basis of gender identity is you're empowering these people to put other people at risk. Here in Northern Virginia, where we're based at APP, there is a sex offender, a little convicted pedophile who was in the women's bathroom at the community center exposing himself to children. And it took a lot of effort to get him out. The DA here is still refusing to prosecute him on those grounds. So we've got to get back to sanity. We've got to stop pretending that these things are paramount to other things like decency, like the innocence of our children. But I do think, though, that the other big statistic I mentioned earlier is that from the NIH, these children with gender dysphoria are 4 times more likely to have other diagnoses. We got to start addressing these other diagnoses first before we start mutilating and sterilizing our children.
Yeah, you've said that parents are on the front line. So if there are moms and dads out there listening right now, what's just something that they need to know in terms of this conversation?
Well, first and foremost, if your children are coming home and saying that they are being taught that gender is a social construct or that they can be a boy or that there's a new transgender identifying student in their classroom, you need to get them out. Right? Your children are not guinea pigs. Your children are not meant to be tested. They are sponges, and they will soak up every bit of information and every bit of ideology that is put in that school. You either need to go on super duper offense, like I've done with my children, or you need to pull them out of the school. But at a more basic level, there are no transgender children. There are just boys and girls. They're infinite personalities, and we need to start affirming that. But we need to do it in love. That means telling the truth. But the other thing I'll tell you is you have to vote for the right people. Right? If you're sick and tired of all this trans nonsense, well, then you got to start holding these politicians accountable, because I'm telling you, the vast majority of it is coming from the federal government. The federal government is subsidizing this stuff through Obamacare. They're subsidizing it through coercing insurance companies to pay for it. They've eliminated the regulation. There's 27 states in this country that prevent therapists from treating transgenderism as a mental illness, which means that they have to affirm the transgenderism in the child. It's totally disastrous. And if we don't start voting for different people, including getting rid of problematic Republicans, we're going to keep having more school shootings and more assassinations of our most important conservative leaders.
Well, Terry, exactly. And to go to those deeper solutions, I know one you agree with. I want to talk about faith. I mean, you've shared how Charlie prayed with your family. Talk a little bit about that, his faith behind the scenes, and how that can help us moving forward.
Yeah, look, I think that at the heart of it, and you saw this not just in the way that Charlie would pray, you saw this in how he treated the people that disagreed with him the strongest, right? He treated each person as a legitimate child of God. And that meant that he wasn't going to lie to them. That meant that he was very open about his faith. He wore it on his sleeve, but in a very sincere way. I will tell you, one of the last arguments, I Charlie had, I'm Catholic and Charlie's obviously not. And on his show, though, he said, I think that Mary might be part of the answer to feminism and this whole rejection of femininity from American women. And I texted him and I said, thank you so much. He said, evangelicals don't honor Mary enough. And I texted him, I said, thank you so much. That means a lot as a Catholic. And he goes, it's true. She's not the queen of heaven, or, she's not sinless or anything like that. So it was just typical Charlie, but he was a sincere Christian in the pursuit of truth. And I think there's a lot to learn from that, from a sincere and honest effort to find the truth, to get to the heart of what God has created in our world. Like, our pursuit of God is a pursuit of truth. And until we realize that the truth is directly, inherently related to not just God, a God existing, but to Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, He is the way, the truth, and the life. And I think that's something that Charlie was very, very clear on. And until we return to that, I think you're going to still get more insanity in this country.
Yeah, that was one of the loudest messages that he would put out. So as people continue to look up and say, who is this Charlie Kirk? Who was he? This is the message that people are going to get over and over and over. And I can't think of a better way to leave a legacy. Terry Schilling, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
When we come back, who is Bad Bunny? What? I had to Google it too. We'll talk about the Super Bowl halftime show coming up next. The Super Bowl halftime show has been announced, and we're getting Bad Bunny. If you don't know who that is, you're not alone. I had to actually look it up too. But once you do, it actually makes a little bit more sense because they say he doesn't sing in English. He canceled his entire U.S. tour, claiming that ICE agents, they might target his undocumented fans at his concerts. So there's so much there. And you see Bad Bunny, of course, he's in a dress or a skirt. So all of this makes too much sense. So I asked you on X, do you think that the NFL picked Bad Bunny to entertain fans or to send a political message against Trump and MAGA? David starts us off and says that Jay-Z has been selecting the halftime show since 2019. And you can tell that the halftime show hasn't been for football fans since then. To which I would say, yeah, it has. It has been many years since we have actually cared about what's going on the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah, you can say that 3 times, 4 times. How many? Actually, 6 times. It's been bad even before that. Some of this started, but this is just a slap in the face. It's sort of like, why? Are you serious? This guy has he doesn't do tours because ICE might get undocumented fans. Wears a dress and okay, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
And that sentiment is basically echoed by Keith here, who wrote that this is a middle finger to MAGA, who will still line up to eat the poop sandwich the NFL is serving up every week. Keith, I feel attacked right now. Matt Peterson, I have joined him at his Bills bar, watching
It's true.
the old mighty Buffalo Bills, and with your kids, and everybody was there. It was a fun time. You're still going to go back. You're still going to line up. You're still, and it's not just you. It's just an easy example of it's us. We're still the problems.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I had to, I do cancel things and I do not watch things, but you can't cancel everything. So I think as long as you're not watching sports 8 hours a day, you have one team, you're sticking with it. But they don't make it easy. And what we see here is, again, a slap in the face to NFL fans everywhere. Once again, I mean, they don't care about what's going on. They seemingly don't care at all about half the country. So we are going to have to think of ways to even get the people who are still going to watch their team, right, to protest in some way.
And if you watched the game last night, I feel that the Packers and Cowboys ending in a tie was a slap in the face of everybody who wants to watch a competition in sports. I digress. Bam, let's go ahead and get to the final reply, who says that between the male cheerleaders, the constant ideology messaging and the helmets and the end zone, and now this, the NFL is definitely sending their own message in what they believe in. Pointed at MAGA, I'm not so sure. Pure coincidence? I doubt it. Yes, I mean, the male cheerleaders alone has been atrocious. Nobody wants to watch that. But yeah, we get the end zones. We get Black Lives Matter. Again, it all goes back to the conversation that we've been having now, where corporations, in this case, it's the NFL, but it's It's all across the country. It's in every walk of life. Everybody knows somebody that has a DEI office in their business or their friend's business that they work with. And this is just the way of being. And yet these corporations have not gone back and gone, you know what? We need to start appealing to more people in the center, middle America, common sense.
Yeah, this is common sense, and they're a little behind, right? And let me tell you why they're behind. This is how they got in the situation in the first place. They listen to all the wrong people all the time. So you got people who are wealthy, they live in a bubble. Everyone they talk to is down with the wokeness. They know that things have changed now to some degree, vaguely, but who do they listen to? You listen to the media consultants, you listen to the advertising agencies, and these people are all the worst of the worst. The consulting firms come in and tell them. I mean, you wouldn't believe this if you're just sitting at home. It's hard to wrap your mind around unless you've seen it at work in this industry. The consulting firm comes in, you pay them a bunch of money, and they say, no, this is actually good for business. I mean, that was their hilarious argument. This is good for business. This is what everyone wants. This sets you apart. This is actually moving the ball forward, and you're a good person for doing it. And then they go to the advertising agencies or the blue-haired CMO, chief marketing officer, and they're like, oh, yeah, we have to do this. And then they double down on this lunacy. And this needs to change. I think some of them realize it needs to change, but they don't even know how to do that because their advertising agencies cannot make something that's not woke or doesn't offend more than half of the country now. And they're not capable of it, Jill. And that's what's so troubling now. It's like, reach out, call a friend, because the rest of the country, even if a lot of them are still watching, they still regard you as the enemy, right? And I'm in that case when it comes particularly to the NFL. It's the one dispensation I give myself. I'm going to watch the Bills every week. I know the NFL is terrible, and so do my kids, by the way. But it's like, do you want me to like emotionally feel like I like your product and like you and you're on my team or not? Because that's how I'd actually spend more money, right? That's how you actually want brands to operate. And what's happening is they're going off the rails. They're doubling down. Hollywood is doubling down. And if they don't realize that the punishment is coming for this, if they don't already see it happening in the bottom line, they will in the future. I mean, Hollywood especially, I mean, all that needs to happen is one U.S. senator say, you know what? You get a good deal on all this tax trade-off with you have to pay China taxes, and then we pay you back for those and deduct them. That's not going to happen anymore. In fact, let's do a reverse tariff. Like, we're going to put more taxes on what you bring in from overseas. And then you watch the studio heads go, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't have made a movie about people shooting up ice stations. And with the NFL, like, sorry to say, like, the same kind of pressure needs to be applied.
Yeah, and we see with this case with Bad Bunny in particular, people aren't actually just sitting down and taking this one. It's actually the first time that I've seen people going through and saying, maybe we really need to look into having an alternate performance. Our friend Jack Posobiec wants Creed. He is pushing for this every single year. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but this is one of the times where people are finally saying, you know what? We don't actually just have to take whatever all the liberals out there want to give us. There are other ways that we can go about getting things done. And it's like, we have to build a parallel economy. Weird.
Yes.
Who's been saying this for a very long time? This guy and others. But that'll do it for us. See you back here tomorrow.